News has finally broken by Warner Brothers Discovery. The DCEU, the Zack Snyder Snyderverse, has officially come to an end with the announcement on behalf of Henry Cavill and James Gunn on December 14th, 2022, that Cavill would not be a part of the plan. Going forward with the new DCU, an entire rebooting of the universe of the live-action cinematic movies told across multimedia with film, animation, television, and video games. It will now proceed forward with new actors, new storytelling. The universe that was once known as the DCEU, with Zack Snyder leading it and also being referred to as the Snyderverse, is no more. This had to be a hard decision made by executives, as there are loyalties by fans, supporters for what was already created. The original Warner Brothers studio executives, for whatever reason, wanted to pull the plug on Snyder's plans, which involved a Man of Steel film, 2 Justice League films, and a follow-up Man of Steel 2. He never got beyond the Man of Steel and the Justice League film. Now, one thing that I would like to express about hearing this news is I'm very saddened, because instead of throwing the proper support behind their projects, Warner Brothers DC sought to have immediate financial impact on what they were trying to do, instead of recognizing that establishing stories and characters from the comics that everyone is not familiar with, but to tell the stories great and to make fans care and to receive the proper tones, are so significant. What Marvel Studios has accomplished after a 10-year run and 23 films that was a part of a 3-phase project is something that Warner Brothers wanted to do with just a couple of films. One example of what I'm talking about is the character Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher, who could have really been an instrumental part of storytelling here, especially with the character's background, how he came to be the hero, and what the hero was capable of doing. Not enough attention was given to this character. A slow build and an in-depth look at the humanity of the characters are essential. Why would someone become a hero? Why would someone become a villain? These tropes have been explored throughout comic book films, some done better than others. But when I spoke about tone, what DC brings is a seriousness that Marvel kinda glosses over, and they take it for granted. Yes, we do find humor in ourselves and in life, and it can help us get through things. But to observe something from the point of being significantly important to you, to the heart, I believe that's where the stories of DC really lie. And when you have characters such as Darkseid. The slow build toward a character like that, what his goals and purposes are. Not unlike Thanos, but the opportunity to tell the story in a different way would have been interesting from Zack Snyder's point of view. From a visual standpoint, you can almost say that Snyder, as a director, was like the comic book artist John Byrne, who could create such visuals off the page with his characters that oftentimes readers of his issues would find them to be their favorites. Snyder has a flair for the visual like no other comic book director, and I think he's often overlooked when it comes down to this. The Justice League stories could have been so much more had the studios just allowed the man his opportunity for his vision to take place. James Gunn coming over from Marvel, the fear that I have is that he's going to try to turn the DC characters into the same tone that Marvel exhibited with their characters. That's not going to work. When people speak of superhero comic book film fatigue, that's where that comes from. When you have so much coming down the pipeline and there's not much variety, everything is similar. Well, what do you think is going to happen when Gunn brings that aspect over to DC? Marvel, through their Phase 4, has already run into problems where people felt that the tone, certain characters that didn't need to be given shine or be out front, they've taken for granted that the built-in fan base would just be willing to accept anything, and nothing could be further from the truth. This is why we have to look at what's being done and decisions being made, and how what the fans really want to see should be taken into consideration. Christopher Reeve was one of the greatest personalities actors to play a comic book character in Superman, and many thought he would be irreplaceable until we saw Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill embodies everything that Reeve brought to that character, plus a modern day sense of the character. He was not given the opportunity or consideration that he should have, even though the main executives at Warner Brothers is now saying that Superman needs to be at the center and main focus of where they're going next. Cavill was booted out. It really doesn't make sense. There's a film by The Flash that's coming. There's a way to have rebooted the universe through that film, and I heard that they were already behind the scenes working at that. Why not take it into consideration? I don't know, people. I'm just disappointed. My heart is broken.